Greetings friends, and welcome to a bit of an overdue video, but this is the tournament analysis game I played against Orcs at the final table of the GT when I was on a 4-win streak against my friend and mortal enemy Garen. So this should hopefully see a bit of an overview on how I played against the Orcs and how you can use Blood Angels and the army that I had to get a good result against them. And if you aren't familiar with the army, then I have done a few videos on this army. With the release of the new Sangre Guard, I think there may be a bit of a switch up, but I imagine I want to keep reasonably similar some of the core. And I think the core of this list is actually like the 2 units Outriders, 2 units of Jump Assault Intercessors, the 2 Predators, possibly the Impulsor, the Company Heroes, and the Captain. I would say that's the core, but I think I do want to try Dante with 6 Sangre Guard using the new system. I imagine we may have to switch up how we are using the Death Company. But as soon as that's available, I will make a video, and this game was an 81-point draw. At the very end of the game, you'll see that when we scored it on the day, we actually thought that I won by 1 point. I did not. I messaged Garen later in the evening when I actually started like looking through all the photos that I'd taken from the event and realized that because we were on the new maps for Pariah Nexus, both of us didn't realize that one of the primaries was capped at 15 points a turn, and one turn I'd actually scored 16, which means that we thought on the night that I won by 1 point, but in fact we actually drew this game, so this is as close as it would come, and I actually only then won the tournament by 2 battle points. So we both ended up with a draw, and I still haven't beaten Garen. So he came on my stream like 2 weeks ago, and we replayed the tournament match basically, and he won by 2 points. I think that game was 82-80. So we had 2 games super close, and I guess on the day, with a little bit of luck, I managed to take the win home. So let's start by jumping into his orc list. So we have basically War Boss, War Boss, War Boss. So each of them, I think, was leading a unit of knobs. And then Warboss and Mega Armor ×2, both leading the Mega Knobs. Inside each of the trucks then, he had the Warboss plus a squad of 10 knobs. Each knob has a power claw, so that's 10 guys with a power claw. And then he had the Battle Wagon, which 1 unit of Mega Knobs plus a Warboss and Mega Armor was in. They had the Ed Stomper enhancement, sorry. And the other unit of Mega Knobs was attached to this Warboss and Mega Armor with the Teleporta, which lets them basically have Deep Strike. So there's the 2 units of Mega Knobs, the 3 units of Knobs. He has 2 units of Storm Boys, which I guess are Action Monkeys. He has a unit of Gretchen that are going to sit on his backfield objective. So this list really doesn't have much shooting, out with like some big shooters on the truck and a couple of shots on the Battle Wagon. But my goodness, does it have a lot of power claws. So that's like 30 power claws across the knobs. It's going to be difficult because they're all in transports. And then a bunch of kill saws on the Mega Knobs. Again, that's going to be difficult because 1 unit's in transport, 1 unit is in strategic reserve. Okay, so why is this detachment such a nightmare for Blood Angels? Well, there's a few different reasons, right? He's got a lot of good stratagems. This one for 1 CP lets him reroll all hits if he's active in the WA. If he's not in the WA, he can reroll just hits of 1. Most of the time when these orc units are being led by characters, they usually get +1 to hit, and they usually have a 3-up weapon skill, so they are very deadly. He also has 2 Arrogant to Die, which basically means 1 CP, any unit is fighting on death. If it's during the WA, the unit will fight on death on a 3-up. Meaning even if you kill like 7 or 8 knobs, you're probably going to get hit back by like 5 of them, and that's a lot of power fists to deal with, so they are very difficult to fight. He also can get a 6-inch consolidation. You can also make it that if you want to fall back, you have to take a desperate escape test. That basically means you fail your desperate escape test, your unit is dead, and that goes for any unit. That, for example, you couldn't even fall a Predator tank back out of combat because you have to take a desperate escape. If you fail it, that unit is just flat dead. He has Crushing Impact, meaning when he charges, he can do up to 6 mortal wounds. And then the last one is when you do shoot him, he can ignore or lower AP by 1, kind of like an Armor of Contempt against shooting. So 6 brilliant stratagems. They're all 1 CP, and he's got the unit of Gretchen that on a 4-up will give him extra CP every turn. That unit of Gretchen are going to be here in his deployment zone, and I was never even... I threatened them in turn 5. So throughout the game, they're going to be pretty useful for the extra CP when he's got all that good stratagems. Now, this game is live on the channel. You can watch this game, but next year, when we do this GT again, I'm going to try and get a more overhead camera. I'm going to try and get some better microphones. So that is the plan. But for now, this was his deployment, and he went first. So he's got these 3 trucks on the board. The truck on the right-hand side had the flash kits. That is his 1 shooting unit. I think I lied and basically said he had no shooting units. Did I not specifically mention the flash kits? Yeah, so he's got 10 flash kits. These are orcs that have somewhat of a good infantry killing unit. I believe it's strength 6 minus 1 AP flat 2 damage, so it's pretty good at killing marines, and he had 10 of them inside this truck. He has 2 trucks here full of knobs. He has storm boys in the battlefield. He has a Gretchen on the objective, and he has those Mega Knobs inside the battle wagon, and a unit of Mega Knobs off the table in the teleportarium. So nothing much was going to happen in turn 1, and I have played a lot of orcs, and I know that he has 2 turns of Wa. The Wa gives him advance and charge, and I have deployed units before near that center piece of terrain and seen orcs fly out of transports, you know, like a 3-inch move, a 3-inch disembark, a 6-inch move, an advance, and then a charge, and just eat up my units. I mean, they got like over 20, maybe even 25-inch threat range when you call that WA. So I am sitting back so far. I actually really didn't want to go first, because if I go first, and I went first in the game that we played on stream, that he beat me by 2 points. I didn't want to go first because there's nothing I can do in turn 1. I cannot come forward too far. I can maybe take my natural expansion objective. And this was terraforming, and the deployment for this table was the Crucible Battle, Stalwart, which gave a bonus to battle line. Neither of us had any battle line, and Terraform, which means you get points once you successfully terraform an objective. Essentially, you start scoring 2 points on No Man's Land for the rest of the game. Okay, so basically, I really didn't want to be going first. So all he did in turn 1 was move forward into his natural expansion. He put some units here. I think these were indeed a unit of the Storm Boys with the potential of him jumping onto the middle, and he brought the battle wagon forward a bit. That was literally his only play. So I Oath of Momented his battle wagon, and I've got a Predator tank behind this, a Predator tank over here, and you can see the Ballistus Dreadnought hiding, and I managed to get line of sight and shot everything I could at the battle wagon. And this was kind of big because it was kind of a cagey first turn. The battle wagon was the only thing I could see. I put all my range firepower into it. It's toughness 12 with 16 wounds, and I think I even used my hunter killer missiles. I believe I killed it with a very last strike of a gun because he CP'd some saves when it was low. So I killed the battle wagon and basically forced his Mega Knobs out in his deployment zone, and that was kind of big. So keeping his Mega Knobs in his deployment zone, and now they are on foot, which I guess was kind of huge for slowing him down. And this actually prevented him really doing a turn 2 WA, because I'm still so far back here. I'm playing so cagey. The only objective that I have anything on is this one, and I created a little screen with my scouts. I quite like using the scouts here. So on this objective back here, I would have had scouts protecting and a unit of outriders behind. So even if he did manage to charge the scouts, I potentially still hold the objective. And he did manage to push this wagon forward and managed to shoot with the flash kits and kill some of my bikes. So he was able to do that down one flank. But I think in my list anyway, my outriders are really designed to be that unit that can go out on an objective, and maybe they hold it and maybe they don't. But they're cheap and they're 80 points, and you know, you need to expend something to kill them, and that's really what happened. So by holding so far back, I essentially prevented him doing that turn 2 WA, which was, I think, pretty significant. And it also meant in my turn 2, I was now able to use my rapid ingress, and that was my stratagem or strategy for this event, to rapid ingress a unit every turn 2 and every turn 3. So I rapid ingressed a Death Company unit here behind this, 12.1 inches away, so there was no chance he was making a charge on it. And my thought was, I could jump forward, I could use all my Infernal Pistols, and I could maybe get line of sight on this truck from some of my Predators and my Ballistas. I could blow up the truck. I could either make it that he wouldn't be able to deploy all the flash kits, and or he would have to desperate escape the flash kits to be out with the Death Company that are now surrounding this vehicle, and then the Death Company would be able to charge the flash kits or shoot them with Infernal Pistols and do a lot of damage. And that way, yes, I still don't hold the middle, even going into turn 3, but he doesn't hold the middle either, because he's aware that if he puts some unit in the middle, then we'll start trading, because Blood Angels are fast. And you can see in that back piece of terrain here, I have a unit of jump intercessors, and I believe a unit of death company all the way back there as well. And they were purposely staying there because in previous games against orcs, I'd try to put them on this piece of terrain. And I know that the second they see that, they will advance and charge, and they will just slaughter those, and I'll lose them, and I'll get nothing out of it. So my jump intercessor units were holding all the way back in the equivalent piece of this terrain. But I mean, a 12-inch move from this terrain does open up a charge into the middle, and I guess that's the advantage of having those fast-moving jump pack units. So let's move to the overhead camera in turn 2 once I've used my jump forward with a death company and my movement forward with both the company heroes and the impulsor. So what I'd done in turn 1, literally the only thing I'd moved forward was I had the impulsor sitting behind this piece of terrain, and he would have had to use his Wah in turn 2 if he'd wanted to come forward and kill that impulsor, and I guess he didn't feel it was worth it. So the jump units were sitting miles back, preventing any rapid ingressing Meganobs. The Ballistus is also over here on the corner, also preventing any rapid ingress. We've got the Infiltrators. You can see the Death Company in turn 2 are still on my home field objective. The Predators are hiding so far back, you know, like, even if he comes out, he's going to really struggle to reach those Predators. Everything is back. The only target he could have really potentially gone after was that one unit, that one Impulsor. And I guess that wasn't enough of a juicy target for him to use his turn 2 Wah. So essentially at this point we've delayed his Wah to turn 3, and that was big, and that actually really helped. I was going to say that really helped win the game, but apparently that really helped draw the game, because this was a draw game. So you can see I lost my one unit of Outriders over here on the flank. You know, bad things happen, I guess. But I do have another unit of Outriders, and that's kind of why I like the rule of 2. So I'm holding my natural expansion. I'm fine. Turn 2, he's still not scored any primary points for the middle, so he's literally only scoring on 2, and he's got the terraforming up on this objective here. I actually started trying to terraform the middle with my Impulsor. My Impulsor moved around like this to try and terraform, but it didn't survive the turn, so it wasn't able to complete the terraform. But I did try. Over here I have terraformed this objective. Now here you can see both my Predators are going to be able to blow up this truck. The Death Company had advanced very well, or then advanced. They jumped forward and they were trying to be spread out, so it was going to be really difficult for him to deploy 10 guys out of the back of this truck when it blows up. I feel like the 6 las cannons, the crack missiles, the all cannons are enough to kill like a toughness 8 truck. Feeling good about that. I'm also decided at this point to go YOLO with the company heroes, and the reason I decided that was his Meganobs had not yet entered the Wah, so they had no feel no pain, and I felt like with no feel no pain it would be a good idea to try and tar pit that unit of Meganobs and keep them away from all my other squishy stuff, right? Because with the double kill saws, they kill anything that they can. If I go into them first, yes, he can fight on death, and I think he did that. And I also know that the company heroes are quite a durable unit. So my plan was to use my free stratagem on the company heroes, go Red Rampage, hit the Meganobs before they go into the WAN and start becoming super tanky, and also try and tar pit them. Like, if they are stuck for an extra turn fighting the company heroes, I'm actually okay with that. If that means basically like in turn 4 he's still not scored any points in the middle on the primary. Look, we've got a great advert here for Scottish Iron Brew. A great drink. If you ever come to Scotland, try Iron Brew. It's the only country in the world, apparently, where there's a different soft drink that beats Coca-Cola. So what actually happened when I charged in here, I think I killed 3 Meganobs. And I think I lost 3 company heroes in response, but I guess my point was now there's only 3 Meganobs left and they are in his deployment zone. The Death Company did actually manage to charge and kill all 10 flash kits, and here's the interesting part. This forced him to rapid ingress that second unit of Meganobs here in his deployment zone. I didn't actually like that because it meant that he's going to be able to use those Meganobs to wipe out my Death Company, but he had to respond to that Death Company being there because I think the remaining Death Company, and there was a few, were very easily going to run over the 10 Gretchen on his home field base. And he had nothing he could really get over there to react, so he had to deep strike. So I was feeling really confident at this point, or was feeling as confident as you can do when you're playing at the top table, I suppose, in that like both his units of Meganobs are firmly, I mean, they're not in his deployment zone. This one's 2 inches out of his deployment zone. So one is firmly in his deployment zone. One is only 2 inches out. When I was thinking about this in my head when I was playing the game, I was thinking both his units of Meganobs are stuck in his deployment zone. So I control my side of the map. I can potentially control the middle. I still got my 10 Sanguinary Guard to bring in anywhere I want and react. And hopefully I can do some scoring here. And I've got enough other like chaff units to do actions. Still got a whole unit of Death Company back here. So I was feeling very good in turn 2. Turn 3, this is what inevitably happened, is the WA gets called. So out of this truck over here come a unit of knobs, and they get into the middle and they are going to crump my Impulsor with all those strength 10 power fists. And I did say this was going to be a problem, and now it's becoming a real problem. Over here, another unit of knobs has engaged with the remaining like 3 mega knobs into the company heroes, so they are beyond dead. If I'd had any CP for Fight on Death, and I wish I'd had CP for Fight on Death, I would have very, very probably used it. And then over here, this Death Company unit is being swamped by those mega knobs that came in reserve. I think I actually maybe made a mistake here. I think I spent a stratagem or something, and I could have had Fight on Death on this Death Company. Or maybe I did Fight on Death with this Death Company and whittle down. I think that I did Fight on Death with the Death Company. I think they just didn't do very much damage, and I think I did whittle down a few more of those mega knobs. I think the reason at that point, because he called the WA, they get their 5-up Field of Pain and they start just tanking through everything, being like their toughness 6, and they've got 3 wounds a model, and they got the 5-up Field of Pain. They're very, very strong. So this is what you expect from orcs. At some point in the orc game, when they call the WA, and based on the detachment he's in, he's got 2 turns of the WA. They're going to run, they're going to get on top of you, and they're going to start mullering you and start killing you. And again, I felt confident in the game we played on stream. I feel like I played that game very well, but then in that game on stream, I had a horrific turn 4 where like he just managed to combat me on like 4 different units at one time, and you don't really survive against those orc units. There's very few units that will survive. The company heroes being an exception to the rule, maybe because they're -1 to wound and 4 wounds per model, and the fact that you know, I already killed a bunch of mega knobs. They did survive a turn, but most of the time, Blood Angels units really don't trade well with the orcs. And once it gets down to trading, their units are technically a little bit cheaper, maybe. They got more guys, they got more power fists. So yeah, so this is where things start to become precarious. I did use my turn 3 Rapid Ingress to drop the Sanguinary Guard here, and I guess this is a bit of a YOLO move, like, you only live once. Dante and his 10 Sanguinary Guard, what are they going to do? I dropped them here, just over 12 inches from the mega knobs, and I think it was like 12 inches here, so there was no real charge potential or charge threat. The plan actually was to jump forward 12, shoot a bunch of Infernal Pistols into mega knobs, whatever we can hit, and then multi-charge. A bit brave. Multi-charge as many of these orc units as we can, because we fight first. He can only fight on death with 1 unit. I think in reality he actually fought on death with a unit of 10 knobs, which I didn't expect. I expected him to fight on death with the mega knobs, but because he had still had a very big unit of knobs, he fought on death with the 10 knobs. I think like 8 of them fought. I think I lost like 7 Sanguinary Guard. It was pretty horrific. But the Sanguinary Guard did do significant damage to this unit of mega knobs, to the mega knobs in the middle, and to the knobs here. And then I was able to start using some of these Death Company models or the Jump Intercessors back here with no reserves left for him to come in. I could start trading into the middle, and because I went second, I figured I could hold the middle at the end of the game for potentially 15 points, and that was the swing I was sort of looking for to win me the game. So if we move into turn 4, you can see the Sanguinary Guard did hit in here, and all the mega knobs over here are gone, and I believe a lot of these knobs are not long for this life, and some of these mega knobs as well are wounded and stuff. But this combat didn't go as well as I had hoped, and here's where I made a big mistake, right? I could have dropped this 1 unit of Jump Intercessors that came in from reserve in my turn 3. I could have dropped them over here on the objective, and I could have performed an action, or I think I could have dropped them over here. I needed to drop them in a terrain piece. So I could have dropped them in this terrain piece and done sabotage, but I just dropped them over here in the backfield with the idea of like trading into the middle in like the next turn or whatnot. And this was kind of like a huge mistake, because if I dropped them in this objective, they could have sabotaged. That would have been 3 extra points. I would have won the game. By dropping them here in no man's land, essentially, they did nothing. And maybe in hindsight, I would have asked my opponent you know, like, can I change this? But here's the thing. I think in the early game, maybe Garen moved like a vehicle down here and he wasn't happy with it. And he said like, oh, I've done that wrong. Can I change it? And I was like, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. No problem. Garen's a really honest player. Played him before. He's beaten me before in tournament finals. I've got the second place trophies to prove it. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. And this is the first time actually that I've played the top table game and felt really comfortable because I knew my opponent was such a good and like legitimate player who tries to make your game an awesome game as well. You know, like kind of the way that I like to play Warhammer 40k, where like I would rather lose in a close game and get everything right than maybe take the win or something. And that's why I messaged him right after the game to say, oh my god, it's a draw. We need to check the battle points to see who actually won this event, right? And Garen was super appreciated that I actually sent him that, because I suppose I could have sat on it, but it's not my nature. So in this game, at this point, I'd moved these Outriders right up here in front of this unit of orcs, and I'd forgotten to charge them. So I basically made 2 mistakes in this turn. I was so focused on making the Sangre Guard charge, and sometimes that happens at tournaments. I've been there before where, and this is game 5, right? You're tired and you make mistakes. I was so focused on making this big, huge combat with the Sangre Guard, and I was so worried about it, and all my head was trying to like do maths and wrap around how I'm going to deal with all these orcs. I just completely forgot to make this like 1-inch charge. I mean, those bikes were there, right? So they just had to move around like 10 inches. They're basically 1 or 2 inches away. Like they're basically the point where they just at snake eyes will still pass the charge. And I said to him, "Oh my god, I've forgotten to do my secondary and I've forgotten to charge." And he was like, "Oh well, fix it." And I do really appreciate that he said that. So I made the charge and I left these guys in no man's land. He did actually say like, go and put them on the objective if that's what you needed to do. You could easily do that. But I felt like at that point it was such an important game and it was such a close game, and we'd both made one mistake. I was like, no. You know, I made this mistake. I need to learn from it. And always I'm always saying learn from your mistakes, right? And I must admit that I'm not the best person at always remembering secondary missions. And I'm definitely not the best person when you're tired and you've been playing 5 games, I guess. So I got to get better than that. I got to improve my game. But I felt like that was fair, that he let me make this charge, because I completely forgot about it. And if I don't make that charge, that's huge, because that unit, I know it's only 4 orcs left, but there's probably like 12 power fists. They probably Mooler anything they want out of the middle here. So I was very appreciative that it let me fix that. And so I didn't sabotage, and I could have sabotaged this objective over here, and I very much doubt he had anything in his army that would have been able to kill those jump intercessors and prevent that sabotage. But it is what it is. So we had this giant combat over here, and I did clean up what he had on in the middle. And then in turn 5, he still controlled over here. He still controlled his home field objective. Dante was on his home field objective, and there's a funny story about Dante. So at the final point here, when basically everybody was dead, I needed Dante to go and try and kill the Gretchen on that home field objective for points. So I had to desperate escape Dante, because he played the stratagem that prevented Dante from falling back. So I desperate escaped him, and I had to roll a 4-up or Dante was dead, and I passed the 4-up, and then Dante landed on the objective, killed a bunch of Gretchen, and then he had to make a couple of saves against like the main character that leads the Gretchen, the shaman or whatnot, and he only had 2 wounds left, so I needed to make like 2 or 3 more 4-ups, and I passed them all. And then he had like something else was behind there as well. It was like 1 single knob or 2 single knobs attacked him with like a power claws, because the knobs that he fell back from here charged him. And again, I needed to pass like 2 more 4-up saves, and I passed them. So Dante made like 7 4-ups in a row. And I believe that literally him being alive in that corner, when we look at the score sheet, will basically determine that it was an 81-point draw. So I've probably played this game not the greatest, right? Because if you look at my 3 tanks, they are on full hit points. This unit of Death Company is completely full. This unit of Jump Intercessors is completely full. This unit of Infiltrators back here is completely full. So I probably sacrificed some points in the early game because I was so afraid of him. But he probably sacrificed some points in the early game as well, because he was afraid of some of my stuff. And then it becomes like it literally came down to the fact that I needed to pass 6 4-up saves with Dante. A single fail there on, I think, any of those, and Garen would have won the game, and then I would have been kicking myself, because obviously I've played the game pretty well. I've kept my forces in pretty good check. I mean, I must have like Death Company. There's 400 points in tanks. There's 200 points there. So I've got about 950 points left. What's he got? Like 2 trucks, maybe like 5 Storm Boys and some Gretchen. So he's only got like 300 points left. But points, left on the board don't equate to winning the game, right? So like, there's probably lessons that I can learn, and hopefully there's lessons you can learn from playing the orcs. But it is difficult against the orcs because, and at the end of this video, I'll link the stream. And on the stream, when we played and I went first, it's very difficult because once if they get to choose when they can wah and they can get on top of you, they can kill a lot of Marines. It's very difficult against this orc list. And yeah, so I've played this list twice and I drew and lost. But fortunately, we won the GT. So it was an 81-point draw, regardless of the fact that it says 82 to 81. The problem was here on turn 5 in primary, where I thought, because I controlled 3, which was more than him, for 12 points, and I had 2 terraforms, which we thought was 4 points, but it's actually capped at 15. So it would have been 81 points each. You can see here that I held Sabotage for 2 turns. I had it in turn 3 and 4. So basically, I did not manage to get those Sabotage points in turn 3, and potentially that would have meant like a whole other secondary that I could have scored. And on turn 5, yeah, I mean, I guess I just didn't have another thing to score there, so that's what it ended up in. It is what it is, right? Like, I was a little bit lucky to get this draw, but it is hard once you've played 5 games to keep your head and not make any mistakes. And the thing about being at that 5th table, that's when the mistakes really matter, because that's when you're playing the toughest opponent who's also sitting on 4-0 that weekend, and has sort of like smashed through a bunch of different armies to get there. So it's really difficult to trade into any of those orc units. And he was fighting on death. I think he fought on death 2 or 3 times. Every time you make a good charge against orcs, you can expect them to fight on death, and you can expect to lose a good amount of guys. The terrain on this map helped me a bit. Like, the firing lines obviously helped, and I needed those firing lines to help whittle down his units. When we played on stream, there wasn't as many firing lines, and he had quite a lot more left at the end of the game. So my fire support was super valuable in this game. It kept me in the game, in a game where normally my melee strength will carry me through, but against the orcs like this, where every unit is super melee and every unit is fighting on death, then I needed the fire support to sort of like sustain my list or offset the fact that I'm not going to be able to win every combat, right? I delayed his WA to turn 3 by tar pitting 1 unit of Mega Knobs and making the other one deploy defensively. I think that's really the plays that got me the game. So it was all about that rapid ingress in turn 2 from the Death Company, coming in over here and then pushing on one flank very, very hard, because that's the great thing about the Predators and the Ballistus Dreadnought. 48 inches, they can shoot right across the board. I usually have Oath of Moment available for that as well, so I'm Oath of Momenting this truck. The probability of that truck surviving is very small, meaning that the Death Company were super threatening on this flank, and you know, if he lost his home field objective, his scoring would suddenly be shut down, and you have to rotate other units into the back. So that was the play that I was, at that point in the game, I was feeling very confident. But yeah, I mean, bad actions on my other secondaries almost came back. And this is one of the closest games, I suppose, that I've ever played. I think there was multiple times actually in this game where it really came down to the smallest of dice rolls. A battle, like, you know, Dante has that aura that prevents battle shocks. So I was thinking, oh, cool, when Dante fights, maybe he can prevent the fight on death because he'll cause some battle shocks. Well, he never failed any of them, you know. He -1 to your battle shock test as well in the aura around Dante, and he was like passing it on the exact numbers that he needed. And then Dante passing like 6 4-up saves on the other side of the board. To keep me in the game. So super, super close. I really enjoyed playing Garen. I hope I get to play him at another GT at the final again. And then it'll be a best of 3, because we've both beat, well, I was going to say we've both won an event against each other. I still haven't beaten him. That's the messed up thing. I keep wanting to say I have beaten him, but no, I haven't. I've drawn with him. So you can tell how good a player he is then. I think we've played 4 times. And fortunately, my one draw against him has won me the GT. But yes, if you haven't seen the game between us that was live, you can watch that. I'll link it up above. You can actually watch the final as well if you want to watch that. The sound quality in that is not the greatest on that video though, but we will be improving that for next year. So thanks very much for getting to the end of the video. Please leave me a comment if you've got any questions about my list or about how I dealt with orcs. I've played orcs a good number of times, so that was the one advantage, I think, in that I'd played the Bully Boy orcs a few times, and sometimes just knowing your opponent can really help elevate you. And I think I'd made mistakes against Bully Boy Orcs before, especially like I know that one of those units with the Mega Knobs can give their whole unit like a 4-up infun, because of the war boss that's attached. So just knowing these things and knowing to look out for them. So in like a previous game, I'd actually shot all 11 Infernal Pistols at the unit that had the invuln save, where I could have easily shot the non-invuln save unit. So these sort of little minute details can come up. So practice, a little bit of luck, and that's it. That's the end of the series. So no more videos on me winning a GT. So Miles can finally stop giving me a hard time for bringing it up. I'm just gonna have to go and win another GT now. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon. I do super appreciate it. And remember, tomorrow is the pre-order day for the Blood Angels box. So if you're in America, I now have an affiliate in America, which is War Game Portal. You can find a link to them in the video description. So if you are going to be buying the new box, consider using my affiliate link, and then the channel will get some support. And it costs you nothing, and you'll get a great deal on the new Blood Angels box. I'll catch you next week, guys. Lots more Blood Angels content coming, as always. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.